Okay, welcome back. We're still on page 324 about writing a class step by step. So let's assume that we don't actually need a UML diagram to be able to do our work. So we're just going to dive on in. All right. So when I create a new class, there's some interesting rules. One is I can only have one public class per file. So I want to create another class. Well, I can't put it here. So I'm going to have to go here to... So what I'm going to click on where it says Chapter 6, above the level where we are. We're here at this guy. So I just go up this one, and then I'll do a right click and say New, and then one of them is Java class. That's what I want. And then we give it a name. So, rectangle, since that's what the tangle. Dang. Okay. Rectangle. So, right off the bat, we're going to have some rules. And I like rules. So, let's start with what are the rules for creating a class? I haven't even started writing the guts of it yet. Well, the first one is the name of the class should be in Pascal case, which means it starts with a capital letter. Just like Chapter 6 started with a capital letter, but in Rectangle starts with a capital letter. The name should not be plural. I mean, I've seen people say like employees. No, it's an employee and employee. This is not rectangles, plural. It's rectangle. The name should somehow, basically, should be a noun, right? Because these things are people, places, and things. So it should be a noun and should kind of describe what it is. I mean, don't just say kumquat and you go, okay, what is it? And then typically you would make the class public, which it did automatically for us, but that's okay. And then the first rule, which we talked about just before we got started, is that all public classes have to be into a different file, which we just did. So our project now has two files. It's got the Chapter 6 file, which we haven't done too much to, and then the rectangle file, which we haven't done much to. So we're going to be spending time on the rectangle file, since that's what we're supposed to be doing. So we're going to add some fields to this thing. some fields. Now I'm gonna deviate a little bit from the book. So I need to have a I'm gonna have double for a field, and I need to have length. And I'm gonna do another one called width. And I'm going to do a third one, even though it's not in the book, so just bear with me. I'm going to say double len2. Okay, so I added one, but other than that, we're doing good. Okay, so it is extraordinarily ordinary and normal that these field variables are considered private, which means you do not allow access to these things from inside the Java class. So to be able to do that, I need to go here and tell them that these guys are private. So private double and private double. And I'm going to make this one public just to show you what's going on here. That part's not in the book. So right off the bat, let's go see what we can see. All right, so how do I create an object? Well, I do rectangle, I don't know, R is equal to new rectangle. Remember the bow legs and all that stuff. Well, it helps if you spell it right. Okay, so now that I got that part, let's see what we can see when we do R dot. So R dot. And I got the red things are the actions, okay? And these are things that are kind of built in. We haven't written these yet. This is stuff that all objects get, okay? All objects get an equals and the get class. The get class is a thing where I can ask it, hey, who built you, okay? Remember I told you about how you can have two separate cookies. You can go up to a cookie and say, hey, what was your recipe? That's what that guy does. Get hash code is a way to uniquely identify them. Like it creates a number, just a number that's assigned to each one of the cookies. So I could say cookie number 42 versus cookie number 45, that kind of stuff. All the rest of these things are kind of things that are not interest. But the little square one here says that the length is available to me. Okay, cool. So I'm going to whack that because I don't need that right now. So wait a minute. If I've got length and width, then how in the world am I going to be able to set these values if I can't see them? If I can't see length and I can't see width, then I need a way to get to them. Okay. So, by the way, this is such a common thing that I actually use an acronym talking about private field variables. I call these PFVs, private field variables. That's not something that's in the book. I'm just saying when you hear me say PFV in a lecture, you won't go, what? What's he talking about? PF chain? Well, no. Private field variable, PFV. Okay. So, what I need to do now is talk about why we're putting things private here. To do that, I really kind of need to solve the problem, then we'll come back and fix it, so to speak. So in here, I need to have a way to get to those guys. And so I need a public way to return the length. So this is a method, a public method that returns a double. And we're going to call it get length. And all it's going to do is return the length. That's not complicated at all, is it? Hey, while we're here, let's go ahead and do the one that do public double get width. Remember, these are methods, so we have to have the little bow legs on the end. Cool. Return width. Okay. So now when I go back to this guy and do r dot, I should see some more things. I should see get length and get width along in there. So in addition to the length guy, I got two more, get and those guys. Cool? All right. Let me whack that. But we're not quite done yet because I don't have a way to set them. So let's do that. So let's do public void, not returning anything, set length. And this time I have to pass it a parameter. And I'm gonna type this out, and then I'm gonna show you how it's not a good idea. So just bear with me. So this is gonna be, remember for fields I have to give it the types. So if I said length like this, and then what I want to do is I want to set the length equal to the length. And if you look at that and go, oh, which one are you talking to here? I don't like this. I don't like this at all. The fact that I have length equals length? I mean, that's confusing. Which one am I talking to? So to solve the problem, I either need to change this guy or this guy. Now, this guy is one you can see, well, you would be able to see if we were using the Java docs feature. And this one you never see. So if I never see this one, why did I change the name of this one? Okay? That kind of makes sense to me. All right? So, I'm going to show you the refactor thing. I'm going to do a right click and go to refactor and then rename, or you can just use Control R. And so, hey, what do you call it? I'm going to call this PFV length. Now, you don't have to do it this way. I'm just saying that's the way I do it. So, because no one sees this when they're using it, when you're over here, no one ever gets to see what that private field variable actually is. So that seems like to me to be the one to mess with. Now, see, it couldn't figure out which one of these to do. Well, I happen to know it's this one is the private field variable. Okay, so now it's happy. Okay, kind of makes sense. All right, let's do another one. Public void set width double width, and it's going to be PFV width is equal to width. I didn't actually do that though, did I? That'll slow you down. I'm going to do Control R since we learned the keyboard shortcut and do PFV width. Okay, so now I've got this thing where I have what's called a setter that sets the values and getters that get values. Let's go back to here and let's do R dot and see what we get. And so we get the get length and get width and set length and set width. And then we still have lint2, which we haven't talked about too much yet. Okay, so now we've got it so that I can I can change the width of a thing. I can change the length of things, right? Okay, that kind of sort of makes sense. All right, so now let's go back to why am I doing this? Why on earth did I make this guy private? Why did I make these guys private? Is it because I'm trying to keep secrets? I don't want the other programmers to know how I did things? No, it's got nothing to do with keeping secrets. Okay, it's to force the user to use methods to be able to get their job done rather than talking directly to the variable. Okay, so I want you to use get length and set length instead of talking directly to this private field variable. All right, now I still haven't answered the question why. I've just given you an explanation of what. Okay, so why do I want to force them to use methods rather than talking directly to the variable? Okay, so that is the $64,000 question. If you understand this one concept, then everything else is going to make sense for the rest of the course. Okay, here's how it works. Now, I want to build a rectangle object and I want to sell it. I mean, I'm going to sell it to the rest of the world and make $1 million because I wrote this really cool thing called rectangle. And I don't want to give you the source code to a rectangle because then you know, why would you buy it from me if I'm just give you the source code? You just copy it and give it to your friend. So that's not going to work. So I want to be able to have it so that you can use a rectangle class without having the source code. Now, what happens behind the scenes is this guy gets compiled whenever we hit the build button. So this thing comes out to rectangle.class class. That's the guy that we need. Okay. Now, just to put this in perspective, do you have a source code for scanner? No, but you can still use it, right? Well, that's what we're trying to do here. Do you have a source code to rectangle? Well, we do, but shh, let's pretend like we don't. No, I don't have a the source code for rectangle. Can I still use it? Well, of course I can. Okay, it kind of makes sense. All right. Now, I still have been dancing around the why part. So, why? Well, the problem is the book and an awful lot of textbooks just gloss over this in their examples, and it drives me nuts. If in their very first example of how to do classes, if they had done what I'm getting ready to do, trust me, the whole concept would be easier to swallow. I don't know why they don't do it. And the reason is, I want to have an opportunity to do input validation. So when you tell me that you want to set the width, I want to make sure that you're not doing something stupid. So what I say here is if length is less than or equal to 0, okay, then I want to spit out an error message of some sort. So I'm just going to do system.err.println value must be above 0, something like that. Okay, is that kind of making sense? And I'm going to use a return statement here. Remember how we did the return before? Like that? Kind of makes sense. Which means I don't want you to, if you don't give me a good value, I'm not going to set it. I'm just going to ignore it and let you go. All right? Okay, now we're coming up on the 15-minute mark, so you know what's going on.